Hello and welcome. I am Jennifer Quick with Soul Clarity Coaching, and you are here watching my uncensored predictions video, which means you are in my membership site. This is where I get to actually speak openly. Chances are this is not a video because I haven't figured out how to upload a video, so you may just be listening to this. I look the same as I do on YouTube, so that doesn't matter. Information that I want to cover in this video, and I'm going to talk more openly because I don't have to worry about watching my words, which is a struggle for me. So what I'm going to cover in this video, I am going to talk about the evolution of mankind, what is really going on. I am going to talk about, I've already in my other videos talked about the pole shift, so I'm not going to go into that, but I am going to talk about solar flares a little bit and how they're affecting our body. I'm going to talk about alien invasion and what's really going on with disclosure, just a little bit. And I'm going to talk about, a little bit about the elections that are I'm going to talk a little bit about Trump and Biden and what's really going on with that. I'm also going to talk about our healthcare, our education. I am going to talk a little bit about the LGBTQ issues that are going on. And I will be doing more videos of that in the future. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that in this one as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about the housing crisis, the economy, that type of stuff. Not a lot, because I did a lot of that in the other two videos, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. What else is it? Oh, I'm going to talk a little more in depth about climate change. And I'm going to talk about how censorship affects the narrative. And I'm really going to talk about the narrative, because that is my biggest warning to everybody out there is watch the narrative. Okay, and actually, you know what, I'm going to start with that right there. So those are some of the things I'm going to cover. Let's dig into this. The narrative. First thing I want to point out to you, I don't feel that I particularly get caught up in the narrative. I tend to see through it fairly well. When the whole COVID thing came out, I saw through the narrative pretty fast. I question things. I tend to be skeptical. All right. But something happened last summer that really brought attention to me that I'm seeing a narrative, and I'm seeing how easy it is to fall into. And this is where I want to bring it up. So most of us have chosen our beliefs around the whole COVID thing, the whole pandemic, and the vaccines and everything. Most of us have an idea. We're either in this side, this stuff. We got our clarity. I don't want to get into that. Not the video for it. But last summer, I started really noticing how many people were trying to save me money. They were assuming that I wanted the cheapest option. They were assuming how I wanted to spend my money. And I'll tell you how ridiculous, and this is the moment that really opened my eyes to this narrative. All right. My cat was sick. I took her to the vet. I'm looking at a $500 plus vet bill because she's been there for a day or two and everything, right? She's an older cat, and she required medications, and there was numerous options of what we can do. And the receptionist says to me, well, we can just fill this prescription and you can leave that one for another time, right? We won't worry about that. We'll put that down just to save you a little bit of money. And now this is my cat's health care. And I went, what? Why would I do that? Why would I do that? Why would I put off medication that my cat requires? And I'm like, well, how much difference? Like, I questioned her, why would I put that off? Doesn't the cat need that? And she says, well, it'll save you a little bit of money, right? I'm just trying to save you some money because I know it's expensive, right? And I'm like, well, what's the price difference? And I couldn't believe it. Remember, I'm looking at an over $500 bill, and the price difference of this medication business was like $5. She's trying to save me money. She's not telling me how much money I'm saving. She is determining that I am going to go the cheaper route because I don't have that. What, I don't have $5? Like, what kind of narrative is that? And I really started noticing how, one, people didn't want to tell me the cost of things. And I'm telling you, if you were in business, which a lot of people that follow me are in self-employed, don't be afraid to say how much your services cost or your product cost. Because you know what? Go sit outside of Starbucks and see how many people are walking out of there with $5 and $10 drinks in their hand. So, go in and just look at how many people are going to the movie. Look how many people went to that Barbie movie. What a piece of trash that was, right? And what they go to that, they dump all their money on that, and yet they're not going to buy your service that's actually helping them in their life. They're going to cheap out and save $5 on their cat's medication. Like, come on, people. Think through it, but be on the lookout for it. All right. So be on the lookout for these people that are hiding the cost of something. Be on the lookout for when you are hiding the cost. Don't be afraid to say what you're worth. You're worth something, right? It's okay. And where it's about where people value spending their money in most of the cases. Not all cases, obviously, there's many people that are going through problems, but this is a lot of the narrative. And the people who are watching this video are not the homeless. They're usually the people that are still employed, okay? And usually on a higher end where you have the money. You stop and look at where you're spending your money. You have the money to invest in self-care, self-help, medications for your cat, whatever it is that you're looking at purchasing. You just have to decide whether the product or the service is worthy of you spending your money in that location. Whether that's where you want to spend your money right now. Okay? It's not about whether or not you have the money. And it's a narrative. So what its narrative is actually doing is convincing us that we're broke. Convincing us that the economy is falling out. Convincing us that we're moving into a depression. And we very well could be. I mean, all the signs are there in the world, but the world hasn't made sense for a very long time. So, and there's always, and whenever there's been a depression, there's always been people that thrive. You might be one of the people that thrives. Who knows, right? It's a shift in how we're spending our money. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're now going to be broke. So don't buy the fact that you're broke before you actually are. Okay? And that's the narrative. They're trying to get you to buy into the fact that you're broke before you're actually broke. So think about it. And they're also trying to suck the money out of you. Like, nobody tells you to go, oh, well, why don't you just buy a chai tea instead of a mocha because you can save yourself 50 cents. Nobody tells you that. Nobody tells you that an Americano is cheaper than every one of the other drinks. No, I'm picking on Starbucks, but whatever. Right? I get to rant. In this video, I get to rant because I'm no longer on that public stage getting censored, so I get to really get into it. So sorry if I offend everybody by ranting, but it's what I do. Anyhow, so watch that narrative that's out of there. There's a narrative as well that the systems are broken, the healthcare is broken, and yes, it is. But that doesn't mean it's broken on your timeline. All right. So maybe it's about a timeline versus whatever, it's perspective or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean it's broken on your timeline. All right. I have got many clients that go on both spectrums. I've got clients that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got on the list and boom, I got this done. And my specialist, and they just boop, 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 boop. They got all 5 specialists all looking at them and analyzing them and putting them on just the right drugs and curing whatever they're dealing with. And then I got other people that are waiting 2 years and are telling me about their aunt or their friend that died waiting for cancer treatment on a wait list for 2 years. Whereas I talked to other people that, oh my gosh, they diagnosed me with cancer and next month I started treatment. Like, there's this crazy world and all I can say is it depends on the timeline you're on, right? So don't buy a narrative that's not necessarily your experience. Really focus on what your experience actually is. And this is a great segment into me talking about the evolution. So what is actually happening? We are being pushed into, pulled, whatever, I don't know. That's not the right word. Anyhow, let me go back. So what is happening on this evolution? So we have, for the last 150 years, our intellect has really been growing, and our technology has been growing, our abilities of what we're able to do. We've solved so many issues. We are moved out of survival mechanisms, and we're actually into thriving, and we're becoming creators of our world. Really, really learning how to shape and manipulate our world, right? That's been the big theme. But what has happened, and that's been the evolution for 150 years, but what's happening critically at this point in time is that this technology rise has come up to a point where we really have to, our consciousness really has to open up, and we have to step into responsibility. Okay, we have to take responsibility for what we have created at a level that we've never had to in the past, because the earth really sheltered us and told us what the guidelines were. But we have actually mastered our environment to the point where now where we got to really start questioning our morals and our consciousness and what we're going to be responsible for. And that push is really happening. And in order for that to happen, our consciousness has to evolve. We are actually holding more of our soul energy. We have to expand ourselves, and we have to expand our nervous system to process the information around, because there's way more information available to us now than there ever has been. Right? Our information was very limited before. It was based on, what you see in front of us and what you're dealing in your very personal property that you were living on, hunting, growing, fishing, whatever it was. Your tribe. It was very focused on that. Now we're on a world stage. We're interconnected. We have information flooding to us from all corners of the world all the time, from every individual on the planet, because we're all on social media. We're all communicating with each other. Like, it's crazy the amount of information that we have to process. Our brains are not capable of processing that much information. Okay, our sensories. We have to upgrade our nervous system. We have to rely more on our empath abilities, our extrasensories, in order to process that information, to narrow it down to the vibration that we actually are. So we're actually tuning our vibration as we raise. So that's kind of what the evolution is. All of mankind, all around the entire planet, is going through this process. Okay, and the planet itself is going through an area of space where its magnetic field is shifting, and it's causing its frequency to increase, the Schumann resonance, as well as, in order to hold that higher frequency, it has to change its vibration. So the earth itself is changing, which is causing us, which is a representation, our physical bodies are a representation of the nervous system of the earth. We're very connected, and our soul is the connection of us in the universe, and this connection point, we are that connection point, needs to evolve. So that's the evolution, and we are going to be welcoming in. We are in the chaos of this transition, where we are moving out of a mindset. Now, back in 1887, they did a particle study. People have seen this, like the particle studies, where if it's observed, it does one thing, and if it's not observed, it does another thing. That in 1887, they did not have the technology to do that experiment properly, and so they concluded from that experiment that this was a predator world, survival basis world, survival of the fittest kind of world. And it was, we have been creating this world based on the strongest guy wins, the healthiest wins. It's this competitor world. Okay, when the reality, if you study in 1987, so 100 years later, they redid the experiment with better technology. And they were actually able to realize that humans are creating their environment by our observation, right? And with the frequency and the vibration that we put out, that's where the real shift was. And one of the things that they came to realize from these experiments, and that has come into our awareness, is that our nature, our entire planet, is not based on survival of the fittest, but actually on a herd collective basis. Trees all interconnect and communicate with each other. Everything works in connection with each other for a harmonious planet, right? For the betterment of all. So we are actually on a unity connected planet. And so humans have to change their thinking process into more of a unity, collective, we are all one, versus a division. And that is the conflict that you see happening right now, because as our consciousness evolves and we begin to understand that, we move into that new way of thinking and we create a world from that new way of thinking. The old world has to let go. Problem is, the old world doesn't want to let go. The old world has served power and greed. And that's where we have the elite. We have a very small, we have the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization. Yeah, I can actually say them because I'm not worried about censorship right now. Ha! So anyhow, both of those organizations are based on corruption of power. They want what is good for themselves, what makes them richer, what allows them to control the masses more. That's what our entire system in society structure has been based on. And then they sell us a drama and an illusion through the media, through the narrative that is put out in the subconscious. And you look at the technology that's out there, they've been able to control our thoughts for a long time. And so they put this out into ours so that we're fighting amongst ourselves and feeding the energy up and the greed up to them. You look at what happened with the pandemic. Who made money? World Economic Forum. The rich got richer, the poor got poorer. That has been what's been going on. That is the struggle. That is not the end result, because when the new world emerges, we will all share in the wealth. But right now, there is a split division that's going on. And some people say that this is a double timeline, and they talk about the earth dividing into two different worlds, one that's going to welcome in a new world and one that's going to hold this division world at the third dimension. I've never really, Spirit has shown to me how that actually works, and it's still something I have a hard time buying that narrative, but I certainly do understand the potential of that it could exist in two, and we're seeing it right now, we could exist in two different frequencies. And we are actually kind of seeing that portray right now. There's a major group of people that are living in a timeline where the world is actually improving, things are happy, things are jolly, like things are going well. New technology is coming in. Like, be grateful for where you are. And then there's people that are in this world that are really deep down into suffering and are trapped in this control and this warring and this greed. Like, they're really buying into that at all sorts of different power struggles. So there's this, really, you can see where there's two worlds happening. And it's often, as a spiritual person, and if you're listening to this video and found yourself here, you are definitely probably one of the star seeds on welcoming in a new world, and on this path towards this new world. But where you are, we're almost like we're looking over the fence at the other world as the two are starting to separate, and that's going to become more and more separate. So you can see where pain and suffering is more on an observation that's happening to somewhere else versus what's affecting your world. Okay? And it's really hard for us to hold a compassionate heart and not rescue those that are choosing this other timeline. I'm just like you. I want to rescue them. I want to take the entire world and just fix it. All right? It's really, really hard for me to accept that there are children that are suffering. And I'll tell you that child trafficking is a huge, huge issue in this world, and it's not new. It's an old problem. And a lot of these wars are hiding some of that child trafficking. Child trafficking is biggest in places that there are war. All right. And these children are great suffering. And now I will tell you that through some of the work that I've done, I have gone into some of these children, some of these trafficking dens, and I've seen some pretty horrible, horrible things when I do remote viewing. And they really are happening. So where was I going with this? So but it's a timeline that I'm not in a position to actually do anything about child trafficking. I can bring out awareness. I can acknowledge that it's happening. I can speak like right now and say, like, when you see war zones like the whole Ukraine thing, that is hiding a ton of child trafficking. Okay. I can share the videos that are put out to a degree. Like, there's very limited the amount of influence I can have over child trafficking, because that is not one of the things that's placed in my path, and we all have to serve where we are in this. And that's the evolution. That's where I'm just for a moment there, I thought, how did I get on this tangent? I got to go back. This is supposed to be a predictions video. So sorry if I got on a tangent with that, because apologize for that. I'll try and keep focused. So just anyhow, we are in an evolution. The two timelines it's like two worlds emerging, and really keep your focus on the world that you are in. So now let's talk about some of the predictions. Now, so I talked about the pole shifts. We're not having a whole flip, just a quick review. We're not doing a complete flip. It's just a wobble, increased in the wobble, which is causing a shift in our magnetic field, which is definitely affecting the earth, and the crust of the earth is moving, which is an increase in earthquakes, tsunamis, and all those type of things. But it's not a world destroyer. So now I want to talk about these solar flares. So what's up with the solar flares? There's two things that can happen moving forward in 2024. One, and this is my preferred, is an increase in solar flares, more of them hitting the earth. Now, when solar flares hit the earth, it's a massive amount of energy shot off from the sun. And its intention is actually it blasts through us and boosts our frequency. Our frequency of the earth, individually as well as the earth, spikes when these solar flares happen. That frequency spike actually causes our entire system it's like a big shake of our system, releasing emotions, releasing thoughts, releasing gunk that's literally been built around our cellular system. It awakens DNA. It's restructuring our light body. It's activating the crystals that are in our body. It's tuning our chakra system and upgrading our and cleaning out our chakra system. So like these blasts of energy that come at us are really increasing frequency. And so it's sort of like in order for our frequency to increase, we go up, we go down, we go up, we go down, and we go up and we go down at a steady pace upwards. Okay, so this is what's actually happening. Now on an individual healing, that happens. We get really stressed, really struggled, really uncomfortable. We seek help, we heal, we seek healing, we accept the healing, we let go whatever the issue is, and we choose a new path. And then we start walking that path. And so we have the great release that springs us up. And then we start moving forward. And the next part of us that needs to be healed will eventually come into stress point. And we do the cycle again. That's kind of what humanity is doing. Every time these solar flares come, they are spiking, releasing a whole bunch of pain. It's like a healing. And then it all settles down a little bit at a higher frequency, but it settles down a little bit. And then we move forward from there until the next stress point, and we get another blast of frequency upgrade. And so what it happens, so on a physical level, it leaves us very tired. It can leave us achy. It can leave us emotional. We can bring out sickness. Sometimes we get flu symptoms and illnesses, things like that. We can have behavior changes. We can have headaches. There can be like very physical changes can happen to us. We can have a lot of thoughts, a lot of creativity come out, a lot of vision come out. Our clairs open up, our chakra systems open up. Like, this is what happens to us. Now, we can have a continuance of solar flares coming at the earth and going up and down, and we can continue this roller coaster, which is kind of a gradual up. Or there is a potential, in particular 2024 is ripe for this potential of having one massive solar flare. And this is a big energy wave that'll hit the earth. It will knock out all of our electronics, our technology, everything else. It'll cast us into what they say the dark ages, but it's really no more internet, no more phone communications, no more, infrastructure will break down, our technology won't be available. Like, that's what it means when they say the days of darkness, is these systems will all collapse on us. There is a potential that the sun will actually have darkness on the earth, but I really don't think that. And it will, it can be, some people talk about it being a white light that actually rolls right around the earth. So it's a blast of white light that hits the earth and knocks people out, literally. And like, you'll go to sleep and you'll wake up and the world will have changed. You'll wake up into this world that has changed, where everything's been thrown out. And that's where they talk about 3 days of darkness, the 3 days of sleep that can happen. That's what that's referring to. And there's the highest potential of that happening this year, particularly, I would say, in August. All right. And again, it just depends how human consciousness rises and what's going on. I personally kind of don't want that. I don't know. I get mixed, because it's nice. Get it over and done with is always a good thing. but it also sounds a little scary. So anyhow, that's the potential of solar flares, and that's what they are. So next year, as a star seed, be aware that you are really going to have to be in self-care. If we have this, like if the big one hits, it hits. You know what you've heard the word here, what it is all about. It's a good thing. Don't panic. You probably won't remember anyhow, as they say, but there's nothing you can do about that. But these constant little ones that keep hitting the earth, those ones, it's really self-care. You know, your body's healing. It's going through a healing on your body and an activation on your body. If you're tired, sleep. Take a nap. Don't beat yourself up. Take a nap. Don't overschedule yourself. If you don't feel like being social, honor it. Okay? These are the things of ascension. So that's the solar flares. Then I want to talk about alien invasion, because that's another potential for this year, alien invasion. Now, disclosure is happening, but disclosure is not going to be a massive event. We are not going to see the Galactic Federation's head ship land on Washington's, White House and introduce itself to the president on our mainstream TVs. Not going to happen. Okay? Because think about it. That's the corruption. That is all in the power structure. They have already tried communicating with the World Economic Forum and the power leaders that are in our country. Our politicians are at a certain level. The politicians are all aware of it. Okay? At a lower level of politicians, no. But those who are actually long-term and in the higher ranks, they know. They've chosen not to move in with the Galactic Federation because they want to remain in their control. And then I'll talk about that on another thing. But they want to keep their control. They don't want to join the Federation. They do not want to be a part of that. Okay? So Galactic Federation is not going to make contact with them again. They're done. That's been shut down. They are going to communicate with the individuals because it's the masses, the overall collective vibration of the earth is produced by the individuals in mass. So that's where they are revealing themselves. So coming year, there are going to be more people coming forward with channeling. It's going to be more accepted. There's going to be more stories of alien sightings that are going to be taken more seriously and be more publicly broadcast. Right? More individuals. It used to be that if back in the 90s, if I said I saw an alien, oh my gosh, I'm off to the nut house, right? My family is freaking out that I've lost my marbles. But now, I talk that I'm channeling with a Pleiadian being, and they're like, oh, cool, what do they have to say? It's a conversation. They still might think I'm nuts, but it's a conversation. They find it interesting. It's far more accepted. And that is going to happen more and more and more and more. Okay, so more and more people. That's where disclosure is happening. So back to an alien invasion. Now, what is possible, and again, is a high potential of happening in 2024, particularly, I think, in hard to say, but I want to say some point from June onwards is when I see this as a potential, and that probably more into like September, and that is a alien invasion, and this is a false. This is an orchestrated to create fear and terror and to push the controls, the need for control, to shift power, more power from the individual into the control mechanisms. It is going to be fear-based. It is going to be a false invasion. And it will seem very real. And yes, there will be people that suffer greatly. There will be harm done to people. When you see on the TV that there's an alien invasion and they are shooting and killing and hurting people, they are actually shooting, killing, and hurting people. The question is, these are not aliens. They are kind of aliens, I guess, but that's a whole other thing. That's the World Economic Forum, the fact that they are a reptilian species and of a dark energy chaos serving species, and there's a multiple species of that, and I will go into that in another video, but that's what I'm saying. They are trying to hold on to control, and that's what the alien invasion will be. And so see it for what it is. High potential of that this year. It's not a guarantee. It's not an absolute, but it is a definite possibility this year, more so than other years. I've never actually talked much about it in other years, but this year it is particularly. If it doesn't happen this year, there's still a potential that it'll happen in 2025, but it starts to reduce. So up until now, over the last few years, the possibility of that alien invasion has increased, It's kind of peaking for potential this year. And then I think next 2025, it starts to decrease in potential. Still possible, but less and less likely. So that's the alien invasion. Then I wanted to talk about the election. Politics. Those who talk to me know that I get into politics. And I rarely agree with everybody. I very, very rarely agree with the narrative. So I want to talk about the U.S. election. So first of all, there's elections going on all over the world. Pendulum is swinging. You're seeing a lot more right-wing governments come into place. You're seeing actually what you're going to see a lot of, as we saw in Sweden, and I think it's uprising in France, and I think you're going to see it in other European nations. I'm not fully aware of them, but what you are going to start seeing is common people, the everyday people, coming together and overthrowing governments in new political parties. They're going to do it through the democratic systems, but they are going to form and they are going to take over. Now this happened I believe this happened in Sweden, where the farmers were under persecution by their government. They came together, they fought back, they formed a political party, they entered into the election, and they got into power. They won. That you're going to see more and more and more happening, okay, around the world. But now I want to go back to the U.S. and the U.S. election, which is in the fall. This is going to be so much incredible drama crap coming out. Oh my gosh, is it ever going to be a show? All right, nobody's going to just bring out the popcorn bowl and watch, because it's going to be something else. Now, but what I want to talk about with this, let me just review my notes here so that I get this right. First of all, I want everybody to step out of this idea that either Biden or Trump is going to be, or anybody else actually, is going to be a savior of mankind. Because they're not. This is not an office that is going to hold a savior of mankind. It's not going to save the United States. It's not going to save anybody, regardless of who gets in. Okay? But how the narrative, because the narrative is going to play out, okay? The whole, not the narrative, but the whole story of humanity, this evolution that we're going through, it's going to carry out. We already know that the side of light, love, compassion, unity, that has already won. That is our future. We're just going through the chaos of playing out to get there, okay? But here is how the two it'll affect depending which way the election goes. So neither is a savior. So let me just read my notes. Okay, both of them are contributing. So the change that is happening, the chaos of the change. Now, if Trump gets in, he is a conduit of change, is the word that they use, the conduit of change. He is uniting the new world, he communicates, here's the better way. He communicates with the new world that's emerging and the old world that's trying to stay in power. Okay? And he communicates with both. And when he's in power, he reveals. He casts light on corruption. He casts light or on the shadows that we deny. He has great impact. He forces us to see what is wrong from every direction. So some of the stuff he does serves the darker side, and some of it serves the light side. It's really, he reveals is what he does, and he produces mass change. Now, if he gets in, change will happen quickly, which also means a lot of chaos, right? It's going to be a chaotic, quick change. If Biden definitely serves the old world. He is all about the old world. He is all about keeping status quo with the power that be. Okay? He's a puppet of the old world leadership. Now, if he gets in, there will still be the changes occurring, but those activators of change will come in from the people. They'll come from more uprisings from the people, multiple leaders of initiating change and uprisings from the masses. Again, a whole different type of chaos. But chaos. That's what we're in for. That is what the US election will do. That's its whole purpose. So neither is going to be a savior. Neither is welcoming in a new world. They are simply shining light in two different ways upon that which needs to be changed. Okay? Well, I guess Trump shines the light and Biden just kind of upholds the old systems and causes stress on the masses, which pushes the masses into the uprising, right? So that's kind of how it is. Now, the politicians, the leaderships for the new world are in play, but they will not be the winners of this election. Okay? This is sort of like their up and coming training ground. They must understand the old in order to know how the new will come in. But those politicians are getting their education. They are rising in the ranks. Some of them are even throwing their hat in the ring for the election, but they're not actually going to get it. But so rest assured, the new era politicians, leaders are coming to the surface. They are starting to be seen, but they will not be coming into power yet. Okay? So I hope that really makes sense on that. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, please comment, send me a message, put a comment. I'm hoping in my membership site I can have some comment space for it, so try and do that. What else here? So that's the US election, and it is going to be a drama show worldwide. And again, there's more war. We're going to be amidst of war, right? There also is a very high possibility of assassination attempts on both candidates and some of the other candidates that are uprising. Okay, so there's a high potential of assassination attempts happening, particularly, well, throughout the year. Actually, there could be more than one attempt. So that'd be that. So that's what I want to say about the election. I want to kind of speed up here because I want to try and not be too late on this, but our health industry. So there is a lot of new technology that's coming out in regards to our health, the way we look at our health, the narrative around our health, that is all changing. First of all, we want to look at the narrative, and the narrative has always been run to the doctor, run to the pharmaceuticals to get the quick fix and carry on producing. And now we are shifting our narrative towards our lifestyle, and we want to eat healthy, exercise healthy, engage in the world healthy, take care of ourselves, inner autonomy, be responsible for our health. We want preventative health, right? Instead of fixing what's broken, we want it to not break in the first place. And so there's this real shift on that. And I will tell you that one of the things that they have been shown is that as we move into the future and the new era emerges, this new world, as they say, emerges of humanity, our lifespans will increase. Okay? But right now it's not. Right now we're still in this transition period. And so what you're going to see in healthcare is a lot more division happening, where you've got it breaking down and overrun, and like a lot of attention to the fact that we don't have the services and we are not providing health care. We are on emergency response only. Whereas on the other side of it, we are going to be turning a lot more to holistic. And there's a lot of organizations coming out to promote holistic healing, alternative healing. And I will tell you that into the new year, I'm looking at starting up a podcast, and I want to start shining light on different types of healing and healers that are out there, different health aspects that are out there. So that's in the works. So that's our health system that's going to be overhauled. We're going to see more pressure, more division, more random stories where somebody's immediate, the conflict. I mentioned that already. So now I want to education. Our education is really going to come into light. All right. I encourage you to start noticing alternative education for our children and for yourself. Okay, because it's really going to come under fire. With that, and you can see it now, it's happening. It's already been in our elementary schools and our high schools. We realize how we're failing our children. Well, now it's really coming out in the universities on how they are just brainwashing machines, and that far too many people are coming out with huge amount of debt and very little training, and a lot of indoctrination into a way of thinking. All right, that is coming out and it's being rejected. It's being revealed and it's being rejected. So more of that. Not all education is not valuable. Some people come through with a good education and practicality to it. They actually learned it, but there's a big problem with the system. So the more information of that is going to come. That is going to become more and more obvious, and people are going to move towards alternative ways of raising. They're going to be of educating. They're going to come together in communities to educate. There's going to be a lot more free education. There's going to be a lot more collective education opportunities, like just a whole different way of thinking about education. And I think one of the things I want to do is put a little light towards a lot of different schools that are around the world. There's some amazing schools around the world that are teaching these supernatural abilities of our human potential. And I really hope that that's going to come into our education system. So the other thing in our education system is it is being politicized with the LGBTQ. Now, I am going to release a video on the subject of LGBTQ. I am not going to go deep into it here, but I am going to say a couple things. All right. So first of all, the whole movement and awareness that has come up around our sexual identities, our genders, is actually, the purpose behind it is to open up the way we perceive gender, the way we perceive self-identity, the way we perceive relationships, and the way we value each other. Okay, it's bringing all of that up into question, which is very needed. It's part of raising the evolution of relationships and connections. Okay, so it is of greater service. Those who come into this world that are, whatever role they're playing within that narrative, they are serving a greater good. Now, that being said, the dark forces, the World Economic Forum, the reptilians, the Anunnaki, all of those dark entities are capitalizing and manipulating and using this light purpose for producing shadow results. Okay, so like everything, there are two sides going on. One is being manipulated to cause more anger, more stress, more divide. And then another side where there's another purpose that is upgrading our relationships, upgrading our thinking, upgrading our consciousness, and creating more unity and acceptance. So, and now where is it hitting us the hardest is with our children, because we do not live for our children. Not everybody in the world. There's many places in the world, and particularly the places that have this issue rising up in their education system are places that really don't put value into the future generation. They do not invest very well into their future generation. They have a tendency to push the future generation into supporting and taking care of the older generation. Okay? And that is a shift that we really need to happen. We need to look at how we're raising our children, and we need to value their potential more and nurture their potential more. And that is why this conflict is happening in our education system, because it's cracking open the falsity, the negativity, the destructive aspects of what our education system has been doing. So it has this great purpose. That divide is going to heat up in 2024. And I am really calling out to starseeds to start questioning what side of this narrative you are buying into. Because it doesn't matter if you are extreme left or extreme right. If you're an extreme, you're feeding into a divide and conflict. What are you putting out in your heart? You can say, oh, I love everybody, and you're far left, and it's because you love everybody and think everybody deserves right. But if you're down there and you are getting in the face of somebody else who is concerned about their children, who is expressing, who is questioning whether it's right to allow gender block hormones, pharmaceuticals to be placed into young children, and you get in their face and promote anger, well, then you're serving the divide. You're not serving the understanding. If you're wanting to promote unity and acceptance of all, then you need to listen to what the other side's concerns are and find a meeting ground. Because in the end, you both have the same concern. You both want acceptance for and what's best for the child. So again, it falls back into that. You should not only listen to those who agree with you, but more importantly, you should listen to those who do not. Because that is only how we bridge together and come together and we grow. It is also how we grow as people. And our understandings of a situation is by understanding the opposition. And let me tell you, those people, it doesn't matter which side you are. There is two people on the extreme, two types of people, and they happen on both parties. There is the people that are in there and they're pushing the violence, they're pushing the divide, they are working on the side of the cabal, the negative, the dark forces, okay? And then there's the people that are just plain bought into the fear, and they are wanting what's best, and they're scared of the other side. They're caught up, okay? So really look at who are you, where are you on this, and really come to try and seek what's best and understand each other. The understanding of each other and hearing each other is what needs to happen. So that's what I'm going to say about the education system. I'm going to leave that because, again, I could go deep into that. Housing crisis in the world, that is a worldwide problem. And yes, it is coming to a peak, and it's going to be seen as well as the immigration issues that are going on. And again, that's worldwide, and borders, worldwide issues. And we are going to see more of that in 2024. I don't really think we're going to see a lot of resolutions or solutions coming forward in 2024 on that front, but I think you are going to see just more conflict of it, more revealing of it, more tension. What else is here? Climate change. I invite you to investigate climate change wherever you are on the spectrum, because the narrative you are being told is not true. Flat out, it is not true. And you've got to start questioning, because it has been so manipulated over multiple generations. Okay? Multiple generations. And it is a deep hole of corruption. That climate change, wow. First of all, the climate is changing. Guarantee you it's changing. It's part of the natural cycles of the earth. And it's maybe slightly, it's not even actually slightly more. It's actually less than it has been in the past. But in that, the ice Go look up some of Greg Braden stuff. I probably have it in my YouTube channel on one of my playlists or something like that, but he really explains it well. But it is a false narrative what's going on. Where is climate change happening? Yes. Is it natural? Yes. Is it at the worst it's ever been? Is it a species wipeout level? No, it's not. Okay. Is it, are humans contributing to it? Yes. Is it a significant contributor? No, it's not. Okay, there is this funny thing. So climate change and the human effect on it, that narrative that humans are so horrible and causing this climate change and destroying the world is a bunch of crap. It's a bunch of bullshit is what it is. It's meant to create fear and control and power. Look at where it goes. It goes right up to the cabal, right? But within that, there is another side to this. And that is clean up your damn room. Because humans are not living sustainably. Humans are actually trashing their planet. We're creating a big, and it's all going to be on the surface affecting us. But it comes back to that valuing and caring and living sustainably. We don't have to live in outhouses and be back into the dark ages in the way we live, but we can certainly choose to live in harmony with our environment versus trying to conquer it. And that's the shift in narrative that we need to have. So stop and think about this. And I'm going to pick on one thing. I am going rant warning. Here is rant warning. Okay? I got many. This is one of my big ones. Climate change and EV cars. And actually there's hope on this because I think people realize this. First of all, electric cars are not good for the planet. Plain and simple. They're not. The mining that is required for the products that are used in creating them are horrible. They are, talk about abuse of humans. It's some of the worst human atrocities you can imagine. It's disgusting. It's and it's not renewable by any means whatsoever. It's a resource base that is just like it's horrible, truly horrible. And if you're driving an electric car, that's what you're supporting. Okay, it actually reminds me of the Mask of Zorro movie, and the mining scene with all these little children burying into the earth to get the resources for the big rich people or whatever. Like that is that in the resource industry. So that's one. Two. Do you remember brownouts or not brownouts? So what was it? Power hour, where we didn't have enough electricity. And so we were all encouraged to buy energy saving devices that used less electricity so we weren't such a drain on the system. Do you remember power hour? We were supposed to turn out our lights to save electricity. Remember all that? Okay. You remember brownouts, which are currently happening in greater amounts because of the demand that's on our electricity with electric cars. That is a direct drain on the electrical grid. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why they're pushing electric cars is because they want us to move towards nuclear power, which again, nuclear power is not sustainable. This is a horrible idea. Okay. It takes something like 1,000 years or more for the byproduct created by nuclear power. It takes like over 1,000 years. It might even be 10,000. I should look that up. But it's like at least 1,000, if not 10,000. To break down and go back to be recycled, broken down. And what are they doing with this toxic waste? And it's a mass amount that's being produced, and they're just pumping it into the earth. They're burying it under the into the planet. This massive radiated toxic byproduct waste from nuclear power, and they want all of us around the world to turn into this nuclear power and put it all over. What? Talk about bad for the environment. And now even, and again, check out Greg Braden. He's got a video on this that explains it way better than I can. But there was, back in the 60s or 70s I think it was, there was another alternative to nuclear power that it still was not good, but it had a byproduct of only 300 years. So it only took 300 years to break down versus, 1,000 or more years to break down with nuclear. But do you know why they went nuclear versus this other one? And it was an operation. This isn't a hypothetical thing. This was an operation. There are leftover generators of this technology, and I can't remember the name of it. But and again, Greg Braden talks about it. But anyhow, the reason why they went nuclear over top of this is because of the weapons that can be produced through the nuclear power. It's about weapons, and it's about control, and it's about money. So your electric car, that's what it's feeding into. All right. Now, hybrid cars, those make sense. And actually, if you look, I was recently reading an auto magazine. Yes, I read weird books, but anyhow, auto magazine I was looking through, and it was actually showing a graph of all the different types of cars, whether it was a hybrid, a gas hybrid, electric hybrid or something, I'm not sure what that is, an electric car versus a gas car, and it rated how good they were for the environment. A hybrid was actually quite sustainable and good, because it's actually the gas is ignites, and then the engine recharges the battery so that it's recharging itself. It's a self-contained system. Okay, and so it actually had a lot more. Now it's still in the resource collection destructive. So really, again, the narrative they are telling us about climate change, start reading through it, start really seeing what it is, because it is going to be a huge hot topic in 2024, and the propaganda and the pressure and the bullshit that is coming out around it is incredible. All right, I'll punch in one more rant on it, and this is the carbon tax, what a bunch of bullshit that is. Carbon tax, they're taxing people. So Canada's got carbon tax all over it, and they're increasing, which is making our food go up in price, our gas bills go up in price, our electricity and everything else, right? And they're all pushing, they want us on EV, air pumps, whatever, right? EV pumps or whatever. Now here's the problem. EV pumps don't work in the cold. Canada is a very cold country in the winter. Okay, so at least half the year and most of the country cannot use an EV pump in the winter. First problem. Okay. Second problem is, oh crap, what was I lost my tangent. Carbon tax. So the tax issue is they're taxing the individual who doesn't have, we don't have an infrastructure in Canada that allows me to drive my kids to school or to my work on transit. I have to take a car. I have no choice because of where I live. And many, many people in Canada live remote. And electric cars do not have the distance that's required. Okay. And so we cannot curb the way that we are spending our gas. It's just not possible. Yes, we try and carpool and stuff like that, but it's still punishing the people that really don't have a lot of choice. Okay? And the people who do have choice, which are the manufacturers, the industry that is pumping out massive amount of toxins, they're getting carbon credits. They get away with doing this stuff. They don't have anything. And what little cost that they do have, they pass on to the consumer. Okay? So this carbon tax, where does that money go? That money is not being reinvested into environmentally friendly industry. It's not making our organic food and sustainable farming practices, not being invested into that. No, we subsidize GMO, as a matter of fact. And it's not being funneled into up and coming technology. Like, we have amazing technology that's out there that we can replace all these non-biodegradable products that we use. We have the technology to get past that. Like, we have the technology to answer all the problems. Carbon tax ain't doing it. So anyhow, my rant is over. I'm going to leave it there because this is not supposed to be a rant video. You'll hear more of those another day. So really watch the narratives this year, because they are dialing up the pressure. There's dialing up the pressure on the housing crisis, on the climate change, on our economy and stuff like that. So be careful what you buy into the narrative, because that narrative is going to get really, really heavy and a lot of conflict, and they're really driving home this divide. And we do not want to be in divide. We want to seek answers as a unity. Okay, so more divide. Now, I wanted to leave everybody with hope, and that's, I'm thinking it's not sounding like a lot of hope, but I will tell you that, remember when in the beginning of this video I talked about April 20th and the conjunction that's going on and the shift, and there's a new world. We are hitting that turning point. Okay, the turning point is happening in April, and that new world is going to start emerging. All right, so we will come into the spring. We are going to have that feeling of hope. We are going to start seeing future solutions coming in and it's being implemented. The shift in the way our society is functioning is all going to start happening, and it's all on a positive. And if you keep your head focused in that direction, you will see through a lot of the narrative, and you will be able to keep your hope and your love and your narrative above the doom, gloom, and destruction and fear base that is trying to capture your attention. Anyhow, I'm going to cut this off because I really didn't want it to be a full hour, and I am now a full hour. So anyhow, love you all. If you have any comments, please let me know. I'd love to hear from them. Check out my YouTube channel, subscribe to it, because it really does help me with the algorithms. Please share my information, as I do want to try and reach out to more. And please come back and visit me. Book a discovery call with me. I'd love to chat with you and see if I can help you in moving forward and stay into a new world and healing whatever you need to be healing, and activating DNA and all of these fun things, going on cosmic journeys, all of that kind of stuff. I got lots of new things planned for the new year, so please stay in touch with me. Like me on social media, share my posts, communicate with me, book a discovery session. Love you all. I'm going to sign off, and thank you for being a part of my membership site. Love you all. Bye-bye.